Hey, everybody. This is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. Today, I am going to do something really different. I've got the most amazing people in the world on my show. Doctors Mark and Michele Sherwood are here with me, and we're going to take some time to answer listener questions. And I'm going to give you guys an update on my life. Something pretty significant is taking place in my life. And I've asked Doctors Mark and Michele if they'll come on and talk with you and me about it. And so that's what we're going to do today. I'm glad you guys are here. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. I'm glad that you're here. I'm going to jump right in because I don't always get these guys on my show. Dr. Mark and Dr. Michele Sherwood, you guys, welcome. So glad to see you.
Hey, it's just as good to be here. It's awesome.
Well, you're playing hooky over there in Arizona, and it's looking nice and warm there. I'm glad you guys are here. We have a lot of questions and a lot to talk about today. So if it's all right with you, I'm just going to jump right in.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Jacob in South Carolina. Dr. Mark, my mom loves Mrs. Heidi, and she thinks you are cool too. I am 2 years old and very healthy. I'm not a mouth breather, but I do snore sometimes, and my mom is wondering if this is a problem. Also, what can we do to be prepared for measles? I keep telling Mama that I'm a COVID baby and tougher than she thinks, but she would still like to be prepared. Okay, this might be the most creative question that we've gotten from a little 2-year-old. What do you guys say?
Well, I'll do the snoring thing, Jacob, for you. I appreciate you, man. 2-year-old coming up with a question like that, man. You're one of the smartest 2-year-olds I've ever seen, heard of. I'm telling you. But with the snoring thing, sometimes if you're young, you can be born with the small nasal passages like that. And just try to sleep on your side, and have them looked at over time. One of the little things that we've done is you can put like one of those breathe right strips over your nose. Sometimes it helps a little bit. Sometimes not. And sometimes you can look at a little mouthpiece to open up that airway a little bit. So there are some things you can do there proactively. You want to talk about
even at 2.
Even at 2.
Even at 2. That's absolutely correct. And even if you're 22, sometimes there is a change in the nasal mucosa. That nasal mucosa takes a lot of air over 22 years, 365 days a year. And that nasal mucosa can become maybe a little bit thicker than it should be. We can start with like nasal rinses with a little bit of silver psyllin in it. That silver kind of helps take the inflammation out of those turbinates. What happens when you're snoring is you've gone from nasal breathing to mouth breathing, and that airway can collapse. And you start making this noise because the back of the airway just starts to vibrate. So starting with looking at whether your nasal passages have been obstructed first is a good place to start with that nasal rinse and those breathe easy strips. That's usually a win.
Are you talking about like a neti pot?
A neti pot is absolutely a great thing to do as long as you don't get obsessed with it and try to do it 3 times a day because that can make swelling worse.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, that's good to know. The first time I ever did the neti pot, I felt like I was being waterboarded. I'm like, why do people do this? Then I got the hang of it. Then I understood it. I was like, okay, all right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. April in Virginia says, hey guys, I'm 44 years old. Within the past year, I have been tripping and falling when walking up the stairs. Sounds like Joe Biden, but that's a whole other thing. It doesn't happen every time, perhaps every month or so, but enough for me to notice because it never used to happen. I have begun holding onto the railing when walking up the steps to catch myself when I trip, and most recently I fell when holding my child. I protected him, but I landed and hurt my shoulder. Any particular thing that could be causing this?
Well, I think, April, first of all, you want to work on some stability exercises that don't involve walking up the steps. And what I'm getting at is work on just getting up and sitting down from the chair without using your hands over the course of time. Work on that. Work on standing on one leg for a while. Work on standing on the other leg. And work on that proprioception as far as the muscle memory goes. And then eventually you want to go to the stairs and maybe go up 2 or 3 stairs, down 2 or 3 stairs. You got some things you want to add to that, McQueen?
Well, sometimes in your area, there's a personal trainer that can actually watch you walk, watch you move, and see areas that might be weak, areas that might need to be strengthened. If the back is stronger than the front, you might be falling forward for some odd reason, and vice versa. You can fall backwards if things are not in balance and they're not strengthened appropriately. However, make sure that if this is a continual process, that you don't ignore it. You might have had a little mini stroke. There could be something else that's happened in your brain. Something might be turned off and might need to be looked at and evaluated deeper. So do the simple things first. If that doesn't work, you go on to next steps.
All right. This was a really interesting question, and I feel like we get it a lot, but it's worth revisiting. Kristen in Indiana says she's wondering what you guys think about parasites and medications like ivermectin that people are taking for them.
Well, Kristen, we get that all the time as well, because it's such a phenomenon right now. Everybody's talking about parasites. We've kind of done it a couple different ways. We do a stool test that looks for parasites, bacteria, viruses, etc. And there are several parasites that we see there. Now, one thing about parasites to keep in mind, and I say this in jest, but I also say it to prove a point, God made parasites too. I don't think we understand the purpose of them, all of them. I think there's probably some good purpose out there, and I don't claim to know what they are because a parasite seems kind of like a nasty critter that we shouldn't have in existence, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. But we do know there is a level of parasitic activity in all humans. So we want to see in the human, did it rise to the level where it's causing problems? If we see it causing problems, we do have some things that we can bring in to cause those parasites to vacate the premises. Ivermectin's one of them. There are some parasite cleanses out there as well.
That is exactly true. And we abide by the rules of test, don't guess, so you know what's there. You know if it's above the detectable limit and needs to be treated. If it needs to be treated, we remove the offending agent with the right things. We've got lots of blends of things that are natural that we can take those offending agents out with. Then, of course, we need to replace the friendly bacteria that might be out of balance. We might need to replace digestive enzymes so that you're digesting your food properly, and those things don't have the opportunity to live there anymore. So test, don't guess, remove, replace, and repopulate with that probiotic or that friendly flora that should be in the gut at all times.
I love that. Test, don't guess. Really important. And honestly, the other thing is, and I think, Mark, for sure, you've said this over the years because we've been asked this question before, people need to stop freaking out. Yeah. There's an awful lot of freak out happening over. Am I the only one that's seeing this? An awful lot of freak out happening over parasites.
No, you're right. We see it a lot. I have people reach out to, it's probably once or twice a week, that someone brings it up. I think I've got parasites. And I said, well, what symptoms are you having? Well, I just think I've got parasites. And then I asked them, which one? And of course, they're stunned. They said, well, all. And then I always go back to the point of we should not be operating in fear. And then as soon as I say God made parasites, that kind of starts to shift the conversation a little bit. And I think we need to not, don't live in the fear space, because that fear space actually hurts your immune system's ability to deal with things that become, aberrant in our lives, right? Mm-hmm. So fear actually weakens our immune system. Isn't that fascinating how, the COVID situation weakened the immune system because we were inundated with fear porn every single solitary day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fear porn. That's exactly what it is. Maggie in Florida says, what supplements can you take for major depression and anxiety? I've had depression and anxiety for 38 years, on and off antidepressants for about 30 of those 38 years. I'm tired of the side effects, but I know I need help.
Well, I'll start with just a couple, and then we've got a bunch of things. I think there's some adaptogenic herbs that are worthy of noting, such as ashwagandha and rhodiola. Now, these herbs won't hurt you. They'll help you. So you don't get too many of these things. You need to know that. There's not a negative safety profile. The only negative safety profile I know with herbs is St. John's wort, because if you take that with antidepressants, that can sort of counteract those things, and so that can make things worse. There's also some minerals like magnesium and things like that.
There's lots of things you can do, but I'm going to go back to that thing. Test, don't guess. Is it really a neurotransmitter problem, or do we have an adrenal issue? So oftentimes when the adrenals are flatlined and they're exhausted, there comes that major depression. So we need to know the difference. Is it really neurotransmitters, or do we need to support the adrenals to get things better?
Man, that's good. And I think, one of the things I love about you guys, and just continue to love it, is that you really are just dealing in hope over there. Because, I spent 30 years on anxiety medicine. And I'll tell you what, when I figured out, oh, hey, I wasn't supposed to stay on this my whole life. It was a game changer for me. And I haven't been on those meds for coming up on 8 years now. And so people need to know that they don't have to be stuck in this cycle of, this is just how my life is.
It's interesting when I think about I read a study or a paper recently that said 1 in 4 Americans right now, adults, are on some kind of antidepressant. That shocked me because I had no idea. And one word for people out there: you were not born with an antidepressant deficiency. Just think like that.
So good. So important. I'm going to end with today with Amy in Indiana, and she wants to know your thoughts on bioidentical hormones for a 48-year-old with menopause symptoms.
Absolutely love bioidentical hormones. If you are anti-hormones, afraid of hormones, don't know anything about hormones, educate yourself. Hormones do a body good. From brain health, they help your brain. Who wants to lose their brain as they get older? Who wants to have a memory decline, mild cognitive impairment? That's out for me. What about bone disease? Hormones support your bones. We see bones disintegrate in that first 5 years post-menopause. 1 hip fracture is an 80% mortality. That means you go to the grave if you fracture your hip 80% of the time. Also, hormones are also good for cardiovascular protection, especially women. Heart attacks, heart disease goes undiagnosed in women. And hormones, if we don't replace those hormones, here comes heart disease with a vengeance. And also think about male sexual health. It's the same for both sexes. When those hormones decline, fun goes by the wayside. And here comes all those other things: chronic urinary tract infections, vaginal dryness, lack of desire. We just don't want to have any fun.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah,
No.
well,
It's interesting. With hormones, a lot of people don't tie them to immune system health. And we do a test.
That's right.
Tests inflammaging, or the inflammaging of our system, where it cannot respond. And we've seen that when a lady specifically gets to perimenopause or menopause, her inflammation goes up. It goes up immeasurably. And so her ability to fight back disease processes from an immunological standpoint goes down. And when you bring back hormones, their youthfulness returns. It's been confirmed people that are pregnant, ladies, you're pregnant, your immune system gets better. How about that?
That is the truth. I never felt better than when I was pregnant.
That's
100%.
right. And that's the way God made us. And so we should not think that hormones are bad. We should be wondering in ourselves is, why don't we have more of them more often? Maybe that's the issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If someone's listening to this and they wonder if they've got hormone deficiency or decline, what would be some of the symptoms that they might notice?
Foggy brain, blue mood, lack of sleep, hot flashes, night sweats, low drive, just feeling like you don't care. Their peak optimal performance has declined, muscle degradation, loss of strength, vaginal dryness, just feeling like you're past your peak.
Yeah.
Just a few.
Yeah. And if they wanted to, because they can reach out to you guys, and how does that work? So let's say that Amy in Indiana thought, I really should get my hormones checked, and she goes to the Functional Medical Institute. How does that work with you guys?
So we have like a free webinar, that's once a month, and it starts at 6:30 p.m. Central on the second Tuesday of the month. When you go to our website, you can just go learn more, sign up here, or become a patient or whatever. And Amy, you can go right there, right? Anybody can. And you go to that free webinar, and then we present during that webinar for probably 25, 30 minutes about what we do and why we do it. And then we allow people to ask questions. And the best news about that, that's free, because I want people to know who we are, what we are, why we are, before they pay one dime. And then if they choose to schedule an appointment, they can immediately. And we're not out there waiting 6, 8, 7 months at that point, because for the people that attend the webinar, we have a certain number of spots set aside that typically are like 2 to 4 weeks. So it's a pretty fast process.
Good. I love that. And they can go to homeschoolhealth.com. and find out more information. We're still getting lots of questions about, and I brought it here, you guys. I'm having brain fog issues, obviously, because I didn't put it on my desk. I actually remembered to bring my hydrogen water bottle with me today because I keep it by my bed. It's the first thing I do in the morning and usually the last drink I take before I go to bed at night. And people can find that by going to homeschoolhealth.com, and also the face cream and all of my favorite things from Mark and Michele Sherwood. So hope you guys will check that out. One of the reasons why I'm so thankful that Mark and Michele are here today is because I want to update you guys on a little situation that I got going on in my life right now. About, I want to say in February, right about the time that Mark and Michele came to my neck of the woods to be on the show, I've been experiencing some kind of pretty significant issues, digestive issues, over the space of probably a year and a half. And we had dinner with these guys, and Michele was like, "Girl, you need to go get yourself a scope. You got to be scoped." And I was like, "Oh, that just sounds terrible." Well, fast forward, a little bit, right about the same time, another podcast guest who is also answers questions, was on the show, and we got to talking about, just, I guess what we do now, you guys, I guess when you get older, you just go to dinner and you talk about things that aren't working. I don't know. I mean, that's what's happening to me. Anyway, so at the behest of my friends, I did a test, and my husband did too, called Cologuard, because I did not want to go and get a colonoscopy because that just sounded terrible. Okay. It just sounds terrible. And I didn't want to do it. And I'm 55 years old and I've never had one. My husband's 57. And anyway, Jay, of course, as is always the custom in our marriage, Jay passed his test with flying colors and I flunked mine. And Cologuard started sending me certified letters. They had people calling me, you need to go in and get a colonoscopy. And so I relented and went in for a colonoscopy. And the results of that were that they found two polyps that were like 7 millimeters and 10 millimeters, and they were able to take them out. And then they found one that is 44 millimeters, and it's wrapping around like 3/4 of my colon, and they couldn't take it out. And so I'm having to go in for a colon resection, which means some of my speaking season is being canceled. And I will talk to you guys more about that. I've spent a few weeks processing this, and I've talked to Mark and Michele a lot because I was actually on the plane. This is another bummer about modern medicine. I was on the plane going to speak, I think in Florida, when the pathology report came in, and it just scared me to death. It scared me to death. And I texted Mark and Michele. I texted them, here's what it is. And they were able to sort of put my mind at ease as to here are the next steps that you need to do. So I've asked these guys to sort of come on and help me. I want you to see them. So everyone look at Mark and Michele. I'm being taken care of. So that's what I want you guys to know. Also, the pathology report says that my tumor, from what they can tell initially, is precancerous. So it's not the cancer that we're concerned about right now. It's the sheer size of the dumb thing, and it has to come out. So I thought it'd be good to just talk to you guys while you're here, because we've been having these conversations now for several weeks. And because I've been on the phone crying with you, this is not an easy thing for me. It's hard to get me down. And this is kind of knocking me out of my rear end. But you had encouraged me, Michele, just to really go in for and to stop guessing and start testing, which is what you guys were saying a few minutes ago. And I think, I'm going to be the poster child apparently now going forward for colonoscopies, because I have to get one every year now for the rest of my life, I'm told. But walk us through, you guys, people that are listening to this and they might be saying, I'm having stomach issues, or what's your counsel and your advice to people who are listening to this and they're wondering, I wonder if I should go and get it tested.
So if symptoms are severe and you've tried a lot of alternative things and nothing is getting better and it's not improving and they're nagging and time is passing, it's probably time to test and not guess. Now, I'm a board certified medical doctor, and I know there's a lot of fear out there about mainstream medicine, but I will stand here and tell you that not one of my colleagues is going to try to hurt a patient or put them in harm's way. So I have the ability to reach out to any of my colleagues at any time and say, what do you think about this case? Where should I send them? Who should I send them to? How should I send them to? And I believe that at the heart of the doctors that have gone through mainstream medicine, they have people at their heart too. So just to give some peace out there, find your friends, like Heidi asked people in her area, who do you recommend? Who comes of high regard? Because doctors aren't out there to just get you to go to the grave. They're really out there to help you find the best way to help you heal. And then you put people around you that can help you heal after you've had a main procedure, like a surgical procedure where you need a resection, or a knee procedure where you have to have a replacement. There are ancillary providers and help that can come into play to help you every step of the way.
And I'll add just a little color commentary to what my wife was saying. As a board certified sports medicine internist, she also has an incredible background in the other side of things. I don't call it alternative. I call it the other side of things, right? And so when you put it all together, it's better to have a complete picture, one picture. And the system is set up, the medical system, to do things like this. Now, it's not very good at prevention. We would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
But as far as things like this is what it's for. But when you can find the well-rounded, sort of this full scope of information, people can really have the best of all worlds. And I think that's what we got to get back to at this point. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about here.
Yeah, it is. And I think there comes a point, and it obviously is, that's where I am now, where I've tried the preventative things and they're not working. And so I'm having a resection. Can you guys explain what that is? I'm trying to stave off a lot of the questions at the pass. What does it mean, Mark, that I have to go in and have my colon resected?
Well, they're going to go in there and they're going to, again, this is what the image they took said, that the big tumor, a big polyp that's wrapped around there, and they have to go in there and they have to try to take it out. And if it's wrapped around part of the colon, they may have to take part of the colon that has that inability to remove it from that out, at which time it would shorten the colon. It doesn't mean that that is something they haven't done before. It just means that some of the colon might have to be removed. Resection is shortening a little bit, and the digestion can return fully functional. You'll just have to be a little bit of a change for a bit, but from that perspective, it's not something they've done or they haven't done thousands of times before.
And I've had patients that have had much longer and larger pieces of colon resected than what you're talking about, and they are walking, talking, breathing, and very successful today.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And also, one of the reasons why I love what you guys are doing the approach of functional medicine really does take the best of Western medicine and the best of what we would call alternative Western or Eastern medicine and really marry those two things together. And I do think that there's a conversation that needs to be had for people who are just so adverse to any kind of medical, Western medicine intervention that they wait too long. And I've been having issues for a while. Like I told you guys when we were at dinner, I've been actually having issues for a long time. And I've seen, naturopaths, and people keep giving me tinctures and vitamins and all this stuff. And I do think that there is a certain backlash that happens. And I've had to work my way through these emotions because it makes me kind of angry. I told you guys, I feel like we can't, what you said, Mark, is right. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And there's such a backlash against the medical community, which I think is founded. Nobody's been a greater critic of Western medicine, especially when it comes to vaccines and when it comes to COVID and all the buffoonery that we all live through. But we also have to use common sense, and we can't live in fear. And I think what do you guys think about that? Because I do think there's a fair amount of that going around right now.
Well, there really is. I think the COVID, and rightly so, that situation pushed people in the direction of distrust because it was such a force-fed situation right down your throat. You have to do this or else. And it was based upon fear. And we know, and I'm not trying to be hyper-spiritual here, but we know fear is the native language of our enemy. So when that's the native language of mainstream media, that's the native language for mainstream government, that's the native language for mainstream medicine, we know that can't be the native language of God. So just put that out there like that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
with that said, not everybody in the system is living in fear. They're trying to live in some wisdom. There's some great people out there. And like in your situation, exactly, you look at the tumor as it is, that didn't go from here to here in one day or 6 months. It took some time. And again, if there's people out there that are hesitant about things, frankly, I understand. We get that, like you said, understand. But pray through that and ask for wisdom, because God gives that to us to make good decisions like you did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so obviously I ended up with a colonoscopy. What are some reasons why, and an endoscopy too? You guys, I have been scoped and scoped and scoped. And I will tell you, as someone who's just terrified to have it done, it really wasn't that bad. The prep is the worst part of it. The colonoscopy itself was an absolute breeze. It was the best nap of my life. I was annoyed when they woke me up from it. I was like, hey guys, I was just getting the best sleep of my life. Could you just put me back to sleep for a little while? And so I think people are afraid of the diagnostics and afraid of the tests. Michele, what would be a reason why someone would need to get an endoscopy or a colonoscopy?
Well, if you are having problems with swallowing solids or liquids, and you find yourself choking or having to run to the restroom to get out of a crowd to try to not choke on food, it's probably time to get scoped. If you've got acid reflux to the point where you are burping acid or your esophagus is burning and it's not getting better with just the simple treatments of digestive enzymes or slippery elm or the natural tinctures, and you've even tried over-the-counter proton pump inhibitors, or you've seen a doctor for proton pump inhibitors and it's been a while and you're just afraid, it's probably time to go get it looked at. The same is true with your bowels. If you're having continual problems with your bowels and your stools are changing and it's gone from the nice robust bowel movements that you should be having to something that looks like a ribbon, or it looks like rabbit pellets, or it's just changing in the nature of what a normal stool should look like, something could be going on in that colon that really could be caught quick, early, and not become a long-term problem. Get it looked at.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And that's really what I want people to know. Obviously, my life is lived very much in the public eye. And sometimes I don't enjoy that. And I would say this is one of those, is one of those times. But I think, going forward, I just want you guys to know, everybody who's listening, I'm in good hands. They're going to be seeing me. My surgery is going to be taken. It's going to happen in Portland very early in July. And that means that I have had to cancel my speaking season. I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot on here because I'm very weepy about this. I hate it. Ugh, I really hate it. But I have canceled my speaking season from July and August so that I can focus on getting better. And we're doing everything we can. Mark and Michele are helping me with trying to strengthen my body to get it ready for such an invasive procedure. And you guys know, because you followed me through my hysterectomy, I don't do well with surgery. And so that is my big prayer right now, is that I come through that surgery and that my body can heal appropriately. So you'll notice on my website that the July and August events have been canceled. And that is so that I can have the surgery very, very early in July. And in fact, I think I'll be in the hospital on the 4th of July this year, which, who doesn't want to be in the hospital on the 4th of July? I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I've heard that I'll be getting good sleep and people will be paying really close attention to me. So this is good. But I think going forward, when you deal with this kind of thing, and I know this has been true for me, having processing these things now for, a month or so, a little longer than a month, I think a lot of our issues happen in our head, because it's the fear that we fight. And I know everybody listening to this knows somebody who's facing a pretty strong battle. For me, having my really good friend Dorinda in stage 4 colon cancer at the same time that I'm diagnosed with this, pretty large tumor in my colon, it was scary. It was really scary. And I want people to know I'm at a pre-cancer stage right now. We actually caught it at a really good time for me. It's a bummer that we're having to go through this. And that's why I'm saying I'm kind of a fan of a colonoscopy. If I had gone in a long time ago, they probably would have been able to take it out with the scope because that's what they do. But now here we are. What are some ways, you guys, because you're really good at this and you've been so helpful for me, just reminding people who are going through something like this, or maybe they know someone who is, what are some really ways that you can encourage them to sort of stay ahead of their emotions and not let fear drag them into some dark place?
Like number one with people is everybody needs to understand that the person going through something is going through something that you don't understand. And so don't say, I understand. Don't do that, because that really is probably not what the person wants to hear. I think just being there, letting them talk through it, tell them you love them, tell them you care about them, and just be there with them. A lot of times, like I use the example, I guess, of Jesus in the garden. He just wanted somebody to be awake and be there with him. He didn't want to talk to Peter, James, and John. He didn't say, can you guys just talk me through this? He said, can you guys stay here and pray with me? Stay awake. And that was it. And I think that's the message for people.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing, Michele. Is there anything I'm missing? I don't think so.
I think the word of the day is just don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
If that little small voice in your head is telling you that something's wrong and it's not normal, it's likely the Holy Spirit moving you to say it's time to do something. The longer we procrastinate, the further we are behind the 8 ball, and then the longer time we have to make up once we get it figured out.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I do think even in my case, when I finally decided just to do that Cologuard test, it was like, I'm telling you, I think I told you guys, it was a lightning bolt. Like I felt like the Lord was like, you do this right now. And I think that night I went and ordered that test. And so for people who are afraid of colonoscopies, that's a really good place. Now they're recommending if you are 45 years of age or older, you should start getting tested for whatever reason. We were talking about this before too. There is an explosion of colon cancers and tumors of the colon right now. And my surgeon, who I've been, working with out of the cancer center in Portland, has said they've never seen anything like this. Are you guys hearing the same thing?
Yes.
We are. And I think we're really in a great time as we come back to be kind of like our own physicians, so to speak. We have to take charge of our health, and we have to get away from, the stressors and the, all of the things that we put into the system that can essentially be toxic and cause these aberrations, if you will, or a cellular change. So as we take charge of our health again, and we start living life, in accordance with how the body is designed to receive nutrition, have nutrition, get nutrients, and heal, we're going to see that trend go back in the other direction. But for years, we've just been kind of on a bad trajectory, and now we're reaping the rewards of that. So as we take our health back, that again will be reversed. Yeah.
So important. If somebody needs, so I ended up obviously with an endoscopy as well. And everybody, that was a nothing burger, by the way. The colonoscopy is harder because the prep is harder, but there's nothing to be. And it was also Michele who said, this is what you need to do. And I'm so thankful because I was having trouble swallowing. There's all these little things that I just sort of chalked up to, well, it's stress, well, it's this, well, it's that. And I was so thankful that, for Mark and Michele to sit across the table from me and say, you need to do this. And I think that, and we can't discount the power of prayer. You guys believe in prayer. Mm-hmm. I do. We serve the healer, and God's in the business of healing people.
Absolutely.
He really is. I think that this is probably an example of just, seeking wise counsel, I suppose, in all that we do, don't bottle things up, get a lot of information. Mm-hmm. Seek a lot of information and filter that right down there. And I think you made a great decision, Heidi. You really made an awesome decision. Be encouraged by that. And this broadcast is going to be a catalyst for other people to be able to have that push or that nudge to make those good decisions like that. I really believe that.
One of the things we don't think about is, we all hear about the one colonoscopy that went bad, but we don't hear about the hundreds of thousands of colonoscopies that went good.
That's true. That is so true. We hear lots of colonoscopy horror stories. Like I said, mine was great. My only complaint was I wanted him to let me sleep a little longer. That was literally my only complaint. It's just like, what, guys? Come on. So it's true. And I think people who are listening to this, I'm really hoping that by having you guys, on here with me and kind of talking me through it is going to kind of put people's minds at ease. I've got a pretty big mountain in front of me to climb. And so I appreciate everybody's prayers. And I want you guys to know I'm being taken good care of. I'm pretty proud of myself. I made it through this thing without crying, which is unusual. I cry a lot right now. So that's good. And you guys are available to encourage people and help them in their own health journey. And just like you've been doing with me, and I super appreciate it. If people want to reach out to you and talk to you on a personal level, make an appointment to see you, how do they do that? They go to, is it just straight to homeschoolhealth.com, and that's where they can find that link?
Yeah, straight to homeschoolhealth.com. And there's ways, you got all your favorite stuff on there that we've talked about many, many times. But
many times.
There's ways to connect with us and get involved in the webinars we talked about. And people need to know that my wife and I, we do care. And it's really interesting. We've tried not to care before, but honestly, because you're carried that way to people, but we do care, and we care deeply for people. That's probably why we're known as hope dealers, I guess, probably.
I think that's true. And I also think you guys carry really just the power of the Holy Spirit where you go. And it's felt, and it certainly has been felt by me. And I've appreciated you guys letting me cry to you. Probably over the next several months, we'll be talking about obviously my surgery and that recovery and kind of what we're doing, because I'm hoping that by me being transparent about what I'm going through, people who are listening can get some hope and encouragement too. We're trying some peptide therapy. I'm doing some stuff I've never done before, guys. Mark and Michele got me giving myself shots. I figured it out.
Oh, yeah. I
feel like some sort of look at me, guys. I'm giving myself injections.
Yeah, you're preparing yourself to heal up. And man, it's those peptides are amazing, and they can help you heal up before you need to heal up, and then help you heal up better after you need to heal up, if you get my drift.
And peptide is just simply a chain of amino acids that helps a system repair tissues. And without those amino acids, tissues don't repair.
Yep. And so Mark and Michele have me on a pretty good regimen of peptides, just trying to get my body ready for surgery. And anyway, I wanted you guys to hear it from me and hear it from Mark and Michele, so you knew I was in good hands. Also, we really do appreciate your prayers, and I'll link to some ways that you can pray for us specifically and can support our family on this journey. If you were looking forward to seeing me at some of those events, I apologize in advance that I'm not going to be there. This is a really great time for you guys to support our ministry. You can go to the shop at HeidiSt.John.com. And again, we love to hear from you. And Mark and Michele will be back, and you guys can submit your questions to us by going to HeidiSt.John.com/Mailbox Monday. I'm looking forward to being out on the road, and I hope you guys are going to be coming out, you guys coming out and say hello. Mark and Michele Sherwood, I love you guys to pieces, and I mean it. Thank you for loving me so well and for taking care of so many people.
Well, we do love you too, and that's the truth, and we mean that as well.
Thank you, my friends. If you guys want more information on Mark and Michele Sherwood, you can go to homeschoolhealth.com. That's the place I told you. That's the landing page where you'll find all of my favorite things related to the Functional Medical Institute. And I hope you guys will take advantage of that. Don't forget that you can use the coupon code Heidi and get 20% off your entire purchase there. And they have that free webinar. When is it, you guys? Tuesday, once a month?
Second Tuesday, once a month.
Second Tuesday, once a month. You guys test, don't guess. Take it from me. Don't wait. If you're having issues, please go in and be proactive about your health and ask the Lord to give you guidance, because he absolutely will. We love you guys. Thank you for listening. If you want to reach out to me, you can go to HeidiSt.John.com/Mailbox Monday. We'd love to hear from you and appreciate you leaving us reviews for this show and sharing it. And we greatly appreciate your prayers over the next few months. Thanks for listening. I'll see you back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.